Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. To the first time viewers, it's great to have you. The topic for today is going to be, so you want to come to America. The assumption there is that you're not in the US. We have a large number of our subscribers that's outside the US, and I appreciate you enjoying the videos, commenting, and if you want to come to the US, I'm going to try to offer in a conversational style instead of a list some of the tips that's going to help you enjoy your trip or get here. Needless to say, if you're outside the US, you're going to want to identify if you need a visa in order to travel to the US. If you do need a visa, then you're going to have to contact the appropriate consulates or embassies in your country, the country of your passport, and identify what the requirements are. In terms of booking flights, many times before you come, there's some preliminary stuff that you want to do. You want to identify if you're going to a city, if you're going to a beach area, if you're going to take a cruise, if you're going to go for an extended tour, something of that nature. Some of these things that you're going to want to identify, and that is the season of the year in which you're traveling. Needless to say, parts of the United States has 4 seasons: winter, summer, spring, and fall. So depending on if you're going on the snow, a ski vacation, you're going to want to be there in the winter. If you don't prefer the cold, then you're going to want to choose, depending on your destination, to be there when it's warm, possibly spring, summer, or maybe the fall. In terms of flights, there's a number of international ports of entry in the U.S., be it, there's so many you can't, New York, Miami, Los Angeles, Dallas, Chicago, Seattle, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia. There's a lot of different ports of entry, so it all depends on where you want to enter the United States. And if the port in which you enter, or the airport in which you enter the United States, is not your final destination, then you're going to want to have to plan your trip from there to your final destination. In terms of hotel, you're going to want to look at some of the, call them ubiquitous sites, and that's going to be the bookings.coms and the hotels.coms and things of this nature. But because of this quote geographical pricing, you may encounter better hotel rates if you use a VPN or book the hotel in your country of origin. Once you get to the United States, there may be an increase in the rate. I consider the United States to be one of the most capitalistic countries in the world, and it seems like the institutions are always angling to find ways to get more for that product. So I say that to say that many times you may want to book your hotel reservations, at least for the first 3 or 4 days or so, in your country of origin. And then once you get here, maybe if you can connect with a travel agency, or you may have someone that has some local knowledge or ground knowledge, then you'll be able to extend your trip and do the other type of things you need to do. Okay, let's pick it up from you've flown into the airport, you've arrived, you got your visa, so therefore you've passed through customs. Now you're outside of the customs area, you have a hotel reservation. Therefore, in order to get to your hotel, you're going to either have to take a taxi or some other mode of transportation. I'm going to suggest to everyone to get Uber, UBER. Download the app and put it on your phone. There's another one called Lyft, LYFT, And many times I use both of these apps because I'll see, depending on the demand, one app may have a better price than the other, but both of them are nice and reliable. And therefore, if you put this app on your phone before you come to the US, it has certain information about you. Therefore, when you're here and you order a ride, the company has information about you. All they need to know for the most part is your final destination. Okay, I was pausing because I said as you order the ride. One of the things that these apps require is going to be a credit card. One of the items I have here is the US is very electronic or digitally oriented. Therefore, you're going to need to have one or two credit cards at least, because just about all forms of payment can be either digital, meaning it could be over the phone, it could be using your credit card, and the other form always is cash. If you order a taxi, if you're at the airport and you're at a taxi stand, and I say a taxi stand because it's probably better to go to a taxi stand so they can direct you to a taxi versus getting a ride with someone that just walks up to you and asks, where are you going if you need a ride. I would prefer for you to always deal with the official taxi stand because they have official taxis, not only that they use, but there should be some controls over the price. Not only do they have controls over the price, but on the other hand, if you should get in a taxi and they aren't using the meter, please ask them to use the meter. If for some reason the meter is broke or they have issues, politely get out of the taxi and look for another taxi to have a meter. That's one of the advantages of having Uber and Lyft. You don't have to worry about payments because the payment is calculated before you start your ride. All right, so we talked a little bit about credit cards. We talked about being digitally oriented in terms of I would say parking. If you want to rent a car, I suggest that one, you have your international driver's license. Two, it may be a little bit more problematic to rent a car, so you might want to be here a few days just to observe the traffic patterns of the US if you're going to be a first-time viewer, first-time visitor here. If your country drives on the opposite side than the US, I suggest you do not drive a car. It's just too wrought with peril. And therefore, if you're in one of the cities, some countries, they don't blow the horns very much. In the US, we do blow the horn. So in terms of not knowing where you are, driving on a different side of the road, your anxiety level may be high, and we don't want to see you have any type of accident as a result of that increased anxiety level. So therefore, again, I'm going to say public transportation, Uber, or taxis might be your best choice. One of the advantages of public transportation is that you don't have to pay parking. Depending on the area, parking can get expensive. All right. Earlier I talked about Uber, Lyft. Those are, I don't want to use the word, predicated on you having an internet connection. My suggestion for an internet connection is going to be an eSIM. That's an electronic SIM card, so you don't have to physically put a SIM in your phone. Now, if you have a phone that has two SIM slots and you want to physically have a new SIM, another SIM in your phone, you can do that, but on the other hand, that's going to require additional steps of you having to go to whatever the provider. If you get one of the eSIMs is Holafly, which is spelled Holafly. The other one is Airalo, Airalo. If you have either one of those on your phone, once you land, well, on your phone and activate it, once you land, you should be able to have internet access. You can get a plan that's good for you. Your plan doesn't have to cost lots of money, or you can get a lower price plan, and then you could refill it after a few days if you decide not to want to get a physical SIM. But once you do that, then when you land, you will have internet connection. So therefore, if you know people here, you can always get in contact with them through, I'm going to call it the messaging, the SMS or WhatsApp. A lot of times people here in the US, they do use WhatsApp versus some of the other apps abroad. So it would be good to have a eSIM on your phone, so that you don't have to physically locate a store, physically swap in a SIM card, take one out, and do that. All right. Safety. The U.S. is relatively a safe country. I say relatively. And that means that you're going to have some responsibility also. And your responsibility is to not wear flashy jewelry, not wear, flashy watches, not wear, I'm going to call it the expensive handbags and things of this nature, which typically may make you a target, unless you know exactly where you're going, who you're going to be around, and you have that level of comfort or security with you. So if you should come upon a situation that you need to have law enforcement, the emergency law enforcement number here in the US is 911. So if you were to dial 911 from your cell phone, depending on your service, typically they may know where you are based on your GPS. And if not, you want to make sure that you're going to be able to describe using an address where you are. Speaking of identifying where you are, one of the tips that I often use traveling, and that is when you go to a hotel, make sure you take one of the business cards from the hotel. And you can use that business card in case you get a little disoriented and you need to get back to where you are, to either show a taxi driver, that's if you don't have Uber or Lyft, because if you have Uber or Lyft, they would know basically the address. Or if you need to have some additional assistance, you would have the hotel's number there. You can call them, let them know that you're a registered guest, what your situation is, and they may be able to offer you some help. So those are some of the little tips. I don't like to use the word hacks, but little tips that'll make your stay a little easier. When I'm traveling to countries that English is not the primary language, I typically have a list. You can be a sheet of paper, 2 or 3 lists, being that everything is cellular now, you can have it on cellular, of, I'm going to say 20 or 30 words that you can use on command to basically interact with individuals. Thank you. How are you? My name is. How much is? Things of that nature. When people see you interacting in a native language, they're going to give you the mercy. They're going to give you a little grace and try to work with you. You also want to have the app Google Translate on your phone, because Google Translate on your phone will translate your language into the English language, and conversely translate that English words back into your language. So those are going to be some other tips. All right, this is going to be an ongoing type of endeavor. Because it's going to ongoing type of endeavor, as you look at some of the footage that I have, some of the video that I'm having here is video of situations or previous videos that I found on the channel earlier. So if they look familiar, yes, that's why. One of the last things I want to say is VPN. Now, you may want to have a VPN carrier. I'm not being sponsored by any VPN carrier, but what this VPN will do, it will do a number of things for you. One, it's going to allow you to get around, as we talked about earlier, that geo pricing, and that's the pricing based on your geography. It also is going to allow you to access websites back in your home country as if you're back in your home country. So that might be something you may want to consider if you currently already have it. In terms of nightlife, I don't know if I talked about this, but in terms of nightlife and clubs, I'm not the best person for this, but I'm sure if not a concierge or websites, there's plenty of information in terms of wherever locale you're in terms of activities at night. Depending on your area, there are professional sports teams. I'll speak to South Florida. Needless to say, we have a number of professional sports teams in most disciplines, and you have a lot of famous people here too, especially people from, I'm going to call it South America, Europe. You're familiar with Lionel Messi, so he plays on one of the soccer teams here also. And on the other hand, you have not only world class, but you have championship sports teams here. There's also casinos. So I know a lot of you ladies, you like to dress up and go out and look good. This is always a nice, safe venue to do those type of things. That's what I have to offer for right now. I might jump in a little later, but until then, enjoy the video. If there's questions that I can be of help with, please ask, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for staying to the end. As I was reviewing some of this, I realized there are things that I missed. So this is a work in progress. If you have any specific questions, please leave a comment. Identify where you're from, and I'll be more than happy to address them in a future video. There have been previous videos that I've made in terms of how to travel in the US on a budget, travel hacks, and other type of information that will be beneficial for you. As you can see, I did reduce some of these items to a list, and that's the advantage of having a conversation, is that I can get more information out by having a conversation versus just putting it on the list. And one of the last things I'm going to leave with you is expect to have updates a little later, or send me your questions in the comments and I'll address them either in the comments or on the next video. One of the things I did not mention was that we in the US, especially in the restaurant industry, are a tipping society. So we tip for restaurants, we tip sometimes for, I shouldn't say sometimes, for hotel service, we tip for just about any other type of service. So identify what your comfort level is with that and be prepared. I mentioned earlier that we are a very electronic or digital society. With that said, please feel free to bring amounts of cash, and if you don't bring the cash with you, feel free to use the ATMs or whichever way you get your cash, Western Union, once you're here, because there are some services, especially personal services, that you may need to use cash for.